themselves in because all we're doing is allowing them to be a part of our space. Is that all right?
That's all right.
How you feeling tonight? You good?
I'm feeling great. How about you?
I'm in a good space. You ready to get them?
Just ready to have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation. That's all we're doing. We having a conversation. All right. Shalom, shalom, family. How's everybody doing? I'm your brother, Daweed. This is my wife, Hokma. We want to thank you for joining us for another podcast, for another conversation on the Go Lightly perspective. If you would, feel free to like the video. We're doing this not because we are trying to get a great following. We're not doing this for likes. We're not doing this for views. We're doing this because, one, I was asked to do this. I was asked, hey, shalom, Elijah. Love you, man. I was asked to do this by one that I value. Therefore, we come to just pour out of our spirit and to have a conversation, man. And, you know, where I always anchor things is from the element of family. We got to be there. So my wife and I, we were having this conversation in regards to authenticity, the necessity of authenticity and you being you, as well as you knowing who you are, because who you are can change. Who you are can shift. Who you are is dynamic from a humanistic standpoint. We are a dynamic people. Humans are dynamic. We should change. Just, you know, seasons change. That is the only thing that is constant within our lives is change.
Right.
But even in that change, there's required that there is a level of authenticity of the individual. So what we were doing, we were talking about why people do what they do. You know, are they making choices that are real, that are true? Is it false? Are they lying? Or are they just doing it because someone told them to do it? Are they just doing it because they really are conforming? Or are they doing it because they've been transformed? So, you know, in Romans, it tells us that we should be not conformed to this world, but to be transformed with the renewing of our mind. Right. And we find oftentimes that people just conform, and that has a definition. It has its pros and its cons, right? And so you brought some really interesting things to the conversation, and I just kind of wanted you to just share just the necessity of just being authentic, specifically the whole conformity piece.
Okay. Well, shalom, everyone. Conformity is basically has like three categories within it. So compliance is actually a form of conformity. So there's conformity where you have, hold on, where are my notes? I took notes for you all.
Sure.
Compliance, which is the public conformity, where you are conforming while you possibly keep a different personal belief. So outwardly getting on board with something or complying with something just to kind of avoid punishment or to get some type of a reward. But internally, you're really not there. You're just doing it for that thing.
Because, you know, I think when you say that, I think about how, you know, one of the elders says that a man that's convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. That they really have not changed, but because of social pressure,
right?
It could be religious pressure. It could be within the family dynamic, especially in the husband and wife dynamic. She may not understand why something is required, but she does it, but she still is of the same opinion. Deep down, there's been no change. Is that what you're saying?
Right. She's just doing it just to get along.
And that's being cooperative is good.
That's good. It's good, but it's not ultimately where you need to arrive at as a wife. So, you're turning up the volume.
I just increased the volume. There you go. Sounds like my bad. The volume was down a little bit.
Okay.
How is that a little better? Is my volume a little better? Can I get a thumbs up? Can I get a heart? Just something. I don't want to stop the flow. Remember your point. but just want to ensure that we can be heard clearly, if that's all right, family.
Okay. Well, then compliance. So the second category within conformity is identification. And this comes about when you see something in someone that you admire, or someone who's attractive or famous or has some type of credibility, and you identify with them, or you would like to identify with them. So you take on these behaviors that they either have, promoted in some way through their own actions, or something about them represents this behavior. And then the third one, which I feel,
and we're gonna come back to that. Can we just park right there for a minute? Because I look at, we speak to our people, and specifically those that are part of the Hebrew awakening, that move in the Israelite tradition. You can't hear anything. Tiger, you playing with me? Hold on. How's that?
We're recording on YouTube also
as well. Can you hear me, Tiger? Andre Ben, what's going on, shipmate? Can you hear me? I just want to make sure that the volume is good before we proceed. I know Elijah.
Is your switch on?
Yeah. Let me just double check. Yeah. We solid.
Okay.
We're solid. So in terms of our identity, you made a great point that identification oftentimes drives people to, and especially in terms of social media, trying to identify with a specific thing, because this culture constantly tells us what to be, how to be, who to be, how to dress, who to dress, what's important, what is not important. So if you are identifying with the culture, if you are identifying with a specific individual, you will begin to pick up the traits that this individual have. Now, this could be positive and negative, because we all need role models, right? We all need examples. And, Shaul was talking about he says that the Greeks, they go after knowledge. The Yahudim, or the Jews, they seek a sign. With us, there needs to be some type of sign of like what you said. There is credibility in the space. Are you credible? Do you have advanced knowledge in something? Or it could be because we have the celebrity culture, because of social media, it really causes people to act, move like people that they want to identify with. It could be because they look at this person as successful, whatever you identify as success, which can be good, because we always look back to our fathers in terms of trying to return to the ancient path. We have to have an identifying marker to know what that path is. We have to have a mindset of that people group to know who and what that was, so that we know that we are on that path, which is absolutely key, which is why I like the definition that you gave of compliance and identification. That's good.
But the thing with identification, as far as conformity, is it usually lasts only as long as your respect for that person or group is intact. If anything happens where you lose respect, or someone loses respect for, this authority figure, whomever they've identified with, it often shakes up things a bit. So they may not conform anymore. So you see this, in situations where, I don't want to be too personal with things, but where, things may have failed for some relationships, and, you think something about a particular person, and then when this relationship's over, you see a whole nother side of someone that if they were truly...
Sorry about that, family.
Oh, wow. Hey, brother-in-law. But if they were truly conformed and internalized, which is the third type of conformity, if they truly internalize the behavior, then it wouldn't this respect factor would not trigger them to change their behavior.
So let's talk about this. Let's bring it home for the wives and those that want to be wives, that are desiring to discover and to be authentically Hebraic in their understanding of the text, to think like Mama Sarah, to think like Mama Leah and Rachel and Rebecca. They want to, or Esther, they want to think like these women. What would be the best quality? Would it just be compliance? Would it just be obedience? Would it just be identification? What would it be that would be the best for them?
Obedience.
Obedience. Why obedience?
Obedience and internalization. Because the obedience is, first of all, you have to understand that obedience, which differs from conformity in the fact that obedience is in response to an order. It's in response to an authority figure giving you a direct order to do something.
Come on, say that again. Obedience is responding to a direct order.
Right. It's a direct order. And it comes from a place of authority. So unless you look at yourself as a wife in your rightful place as under your husband's authority, you find it's difficult for you to be obedient.
So even within the family structure, you have to have this hierarchical relationship with your husband. That's we have to believe and understand that there is ultimately one person that is in control and is ruling in the relationship. Now, when you say rule, that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, that don't understand the family dynamic. And then you have to really break it down, because when you look at the word rule, which is a car in Hebrew, it means to have dominion, to reign over, to rule over said thing. The first time that it was mentioned was in Genesis chapter 3, where the Most High told the sun to rule over the day and the moon to rule over the night. It's mentioned again, maybe not in Genesis 3, but in Genesis 3, he said that Adam was going to rule over his wife. In Genesis 3:16, in that second clause, it says that the woman's desire would be unto your husband, and he shall rule over you. Now, you as a patriarch, as a husband, you have to decide what type of ruler you're going to be. But there is this hierarchical relationship that is prerequisite within the Hebraic structure, which is what we're trying to rediscover and turn back to. But that rulership does not have to be grievous. It doesn't have to be maniacal. It doesn't have to be egotistical. It should be patient and kind and generous and loving. A lot of the characteristics it should be respectful. It should be protective. Those are some of the qualities of the rulership that may benefit your wife into identifying. And what was the last one? Internalization of the things that you want from her. I hope that makes sense. I hope that made sense, because I went around several things, because with that husband having that rulership, sometimes I'm gonna say this, sometimes you have to just give your wife a directive. You have to just command her to do something, and quite possibly that may reveal the quality of what you have, the authenticity of that person, possibly. What would you say about that?
Well, I think that's where a lot of women fall into error, because that's where that ownership and property.
Ownership? What do you mean?
Well, you know what I mean. But the ownership of, your husband is your ruler, your owner. He owns you as the wife. That's just the way it is. I don't know why it sounds so horrible to people. It doesn't change anything between us.
Right.
It's just, the way that it is. So either way, I think a lot of women feel that they fall into the category of compliance, where they are, trying to either go along to get along, where they haven't really begun the process of internalization. They have a different personal belief. So it's, as long as I'm compliant, it's good.
Right. I did what you said.
Right. But the problem with it is that when that authority figure isn't there, you are not compliant.
Right.
You do what you want to do. It's a whole different set of rules. So, when children are involved, it's especially dangerous because now you create this duality where the children are one way with you and another way with the father around.
Or another parent. Yes.
Right. So the internalization piece, I think, is ultimately where you're trying to get with conformity. And that's more closely aligned with obedience. However, internalization does not have that authoritative component to it.
How so?
It's just a choice.
So as a husband and as a father, I don't want to exemplify the quality of being demanding and so forceful where my children are afraid of me, where my wife is afraid of me. I want it to be where my leadership has a sign that's associated with a successful model, where they want to do said thing, that whether I'm present or I'm absent, they are still willing to do that which I have stated needs to be done. You follow what I mean? So that there is no duality. I want to do it because, man, my father loves me. My father provides for me. My father sacrifices for me. My wife, says like, no, I want to do what this man has asked me to do versus what this society has told me that I should do, which goes back to the identification, which says, maybe I should be stronger, more independent, more self-centered, have a little more self-love for myself, put me first. And anybody that doesn't want to have the same experience with me that I have with me, they don't deserve to be in my life.
Right.
That is an error in thinking that causes many people to end up being alone. I know many people that have ended relationships, ended long-term marriages. They released what was in their hand of something that has been proven to go out and grasp for something that is unproven, unsure. That is so dangerous.
Mess up your for show money trying to get some more money
and end up with
no money.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh my goodness.
So
good point. I mean, it's just ultimately you want, as a wife, and that's all I can, speak from that perspective. You want to internalize so that you can act out and behave in a manner that is aligned with your husband without really even thinking about it. It should be a part of you.
It should be. And see, here's the thing. Back to the, the man thing, the husband thing, that's the thing that I do. Sometimes your family, your wife and children, that's right. When I say family, make no mistake. I'm clear. I'm speaking from a Hebraic Israelite tradition. That's it. What anybody else values as family, it means nothing to me. So when we go about this, man, I lost my train of thought. I got it back. When we go about this, because you are the leader, you are out front, you are at the tip of the spear. You're going to encounter things before the rest of the group. You have to be clear about what's going to be the most beneficial way for me to effect change, full adoption and internalization within my family. And one tool that I use is by introducing change gradually. Sometimes you need to baptize somebody into something to get them to understand quickly. Other times you have to introduce them to this change, this greater understanding gradually so that they can adjust in increments versus they're not going to see it all. Because as a man, like, I don't see it all. But what I do see is points of identification with my fathers and with those that have come before me, and trying to think like they thought. So you've been with me. We've been together. We'll be married 19 years in a couple weeks. Hallelujah. It's been beautiful. You've seen me change. You've seen me progress. And I've tried to bring my family along with me gradually versus being commanding and demanding that you have the same understanding that I have immediately.
Right.
That's problematic. Have you seen that?
Here?
No. Just in general, where maybe just completely trying to immerse someone in an understanding may not work because they may be just conforming. They really they haven't had the opportunity to internalize it. Oftentimes the internalization, making the belief system become your own, is from them seeing the value in it.
Right. It takes time to internalize, especially something new. So I think what I've seen in cases where it's, I need you to hurry up and get to this point, is you see the compliance only when that person is around.
Right.
You don't see the actual work toward, because there's a different personal belief. And I don't really believe this, but I want to be with you. So I'm going to pretend like I believe it while you're here. And when you're not here, I'm going to do something totally different. And
that's not being authentic. That borders on, this is not an indictment, but it borders on hypocrisy. And you don't want to be hypocritical, like be where you are because you can't be any other place.
Right.
If you really don't like a thing, you don't believe a thing that is true, then it's probably beneficial that you articulate it, that you say it. And then maybe you can get, from your husband, from your wife, maybe, the wife has a different understanding, like, babe, I need for you to explain that to me, why you think that's beneficial so that I can understand you, because you are not your thoughts. You are not your ideology, your philosophy. Those things change and shift, but still at the core, you are who you are. And there should be this tether within the individual and themselves to know who they are. I have a certain capacity. I have a certain a likelihood of certain things becoming. You've seen me transition from what I once was. And this, we had a conversation about, like, babe, what do you think? People think who saw us when we was wilding and we was at, this club, or when we was doing blase blah, like, babe, I don't care. Like, I'm so in touch and in tune with who I am and what the Father's doing in my life that you can't be concerned with naysayers. Your life should be a witness that it's possible to transition and change. What were you about to say?
Nothing.
Your life should be that witness of moving and operating in the same path of our fathers, because you've identified. Right. So shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Elder Laya, what's going on, man? Love you. Shout out. I can't see everybody's faces. It's scrolling. Kazak, shalom, shalom. Tiana, what's going on? I know that's Eliyahu watching. Joseph Pinya, Marcus Gracie. Bless you, man. That brother be sharing our content. Just wanted to just tap in and just thank you guys. If y'all are getting value from this, let me get a couple thumbs up. Let me get a heart. If y'all see what we're saying, where maybe you've seen yourself as a husband, as a leader, and you thought that maybe they got what they were picking up what you were putting down, only to realize that they was fronting.
Yeah.
It wasn't genuine. Because as soon as there's conflict, see, I always ask, brothers, especially in the Israelite tradition, being Hebrews, we so quick to gravitate toward one another. Oh man, he said shalom to me, so it gotta be shalom. He a good brother, and you don't know this person. You don't know this person, and I've seen where it's all good until it's not.
They're representative.
You're
there.
you're dealing with their representative, and so you really don't know that person until there's conflict.
Mm-hmm.
There's a disagreement, and then you'll see like they may have identified with you and what you were doing, but then in times of conflict, they leave you.
Yeah.
It's like you never existed. Because they never really like believed and supported you as an individual. They may be supporting your cause,
right?
Or what they thought you stood for,
right? Or who they thought you were, clout chasers, or
clout
those
chasing,
people who
who
want to attach the titles and what they think you're worth, to others. So association with you gives them a certain, power or perceived power in their own minds. So it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with them and being authentic and really wanting to pursue any valuable or meaningful kind of relationship with you. It's all about what can they get from you in your current position. If you fall from that position, or if that position changes and it no longer suits them, then you will see a falling away.
You know what? I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna tap out. Hey, shalom, brother Brandon, Hanaya, shalom to you, man. Oftentimes, man, we see this, and I've said this before, in terms of churches, assemblies, where they end up breaking off, fracturing, and becoming denominational. It's basically, a lot of the Israelite assemblies, they just become different denominations, just like churches. Because, well, I disagree with this, so I'm going to branch off and form my own. I'm going to go do my own thing. Like, oh, yeah, man, he wasn't really hitting it right. His calendar is off, so I'm going to go over here and do my own thing. That brother said that. I'm not speaking in a condemnatory way. I'm just saying that men find reasons to disagree and then to break relationship. But the relationship wasn't based on anything but just an agreement, a point of identification. It wasn't based on blood and dirt. That's why we do what we do. Blood and dirt. That was the covenant. That's what the Father offered us, was blood and dirt. And so me wanting to be authentic to the promises that the Father gave us, what he gave Abraham, what he gave Isaac, what he gave Yaakov or Israel, I had to change how I thought. I had to motivate my family differently and have some blood and some dirt so that those that are connected to us, they're not going to leave, because our sons can say, in my Father's house. Oh, man, they got an inheritance. I ain't going to say you got many mansions, but in my Father, they got an inheritance. So that's what's up, family. So we talking about being authentic. You made some very, very hard hitting points in regards to obedience. Go back and revisit that, because about the obedience. That people may be obedient not because they believe it, but it's hierarchical. It's because it's coming from someone in a superior position.
Conformity or obedience?
Okay, which one is it?
So obedience is an order.
Okay.
Conformity is not necessarily an order, but there are different types of conformity. So there's the compliance, the identification, and the internalization of conformity. Internalization and obedience are closely related because you actually believe it. You've kind of taken it on as a natural behavior. The obedience piece is, as a wife anyway, I'm obedient because I'm acting on behalf of my husband. I am acting as my husband. I'm doing as my husband would require of me.
Why do so many women? Hey, shalom, John, Alabama Hammer.
I would not want to.
Why do women have a? I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
I just would not want to do anything that does not align with that, because if in doing so, I'm only hurting myself and my family. It's not helpful to be at odds or not aligned with my husband. It doesn't make sense, at least not to me.
Some people function in dysfunction, and they need a little bit of drama for it to all make sense. They got to sprinkle in a little bit of BS,
right?
To heighten, because they need that stimulation. Right. They need that friction sometimes. Trust me, I've seen it. So tell me this:
some people don't know they're dysfunctional, though.
Yeah,
your dysfunction is so. The generations of dysfunction are as long as they can remember,
right?
And even before they remember.
My mother, my father,
right?
Like
it's
this.
Been passed
my
down. My
grandfather, my grandmother,
down.
Yeah,
right. So often when you say, "Oh, you don't be dysfunctional," you have to break that down for people. Like, what are some dysfunctional behaviors that people look at as normal? Like, what are you doing that is truly dysfunctional, but you don't see it that way?
Right.
And then you take offense when somebody tells you that it's dysfunctional, and you're angry now. You want to, part ways. Don't want to speak, get, fly off the handle, or whatever you want to do, whatever overreactive response. But we've assigned these definitions to things that come from the world. So when you really want to restore a breach and fix that which is broken, the Hebraic perspective, you have to look back to the text. And within the text gives you every bit of information that you need, except you have to really understand the text. You have to internalize the text and understand the motivation of those that are written about. You don't want to just memorize the stories.
Right. That's superficial at best. You may be able to recite it, but the internalization of said things, to understand the situation and the context for which I need to behave as them, not just like, it's good to be obedient because it's like a child. When I was a child, I thought like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. The things that I put away is the lack of understanding. I did certain things without knowing, but now the knowledge and the wisdom, which is the practical application, comes. Now it's a part of me. And I love, shout out to, Maurice Shalem. I borrowed that term from him. He says, the practical application of Torah. That's what we want to do. The application, not just the memorization. Hey, shalom to you, Elanel. Love you. Bless you. Appreciate you. We want to have the application of these things, not just the memorization of these things. And so when we begin to apply what has been given to us, when we become obedient as the husband, as the father, when I'm obedient, then my wife becomes obedient. My children become obedient because I serve as a model. And if they're looking up to me, I'm not going to ask them to perform something that I'm unwilling to perform. I have to inspire them through my actions, which is, a principle. Like, you inspire, you win by your actions, not by your arguments. Right. Me trying to argue you down is not going to work. First of all, I don't argue very well. I'll just let it go. Like, bro, I'm not trying to convince you. You can take it or leave it. Versus, and even within the relationship dynamic, a husband versus a wife, a man versus a woman. If I'm trying to out argue my wife, bruh, what are you on? Like, who taught you that? Why do you think that that's okay? Now, I express my points and my opinions and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is my level. I hope you can respect it. But me just trying to argue you down to win. I'm going to win through my actions.
We don't have that.
I'm going to win through my resolve, through my example. So, but why is it that I'm going to say this and then we're going to close. We've been on here about 30 minutes, family. We're usually in and out because we want to give you manageable groupings, manageable sessions that you can go back and check out. That's not going to dominate your time and say, well, hey, man, I got something from that. it was value added. Why do you think that so many women see red when you talk about just being obedient? I mean, it's not, for me, it's not difficult, but I understand hierarchy. I'm a military man. I knew that I had my father in my life. I love my mother. I understood obedience. Why is it that women have a problem with obedience specifically in the marriage?
Okay, I was about to say
union?
they don't have a problem with obedience because they don't break laws every day. They go to work and clock in on time. So they're obedient with that. It's just when it comes down to the marriage and, being obedient to their husband, it has a negative connotation for whatever reason. I don't know if it's their, prior experiences or just what.
It's the patriarchy.
Right. Culture has, the world has taught them that you don't have to obey anybody except God.
Yeah.
I don't obey man.
Right.
You shouldn't even, anyway.
But why? But that's really, women's neck almost turned backwards when you're talking about, obey your husband. What is something that you can just give them as a takeaway in terms of the need for obeying, whether you agree or not?
It's a sign of high emotional intelligence, first of all. And having emotional intelligence is extremely important when raising children because your children don't listen to what you say as much as they listen to what they see you do. So if I want my daughter to respond in a respectful manner when I ask her to do something, my husband asking me to do something should not be met with me giving any type of, disposition, whether I want to do it or not. No one in the room should know how I feel about it. I should just do it.
Hold on. Let's yeah. Disposition. Marcus, I hear you, man. We ain't got 30 more minutes, but I appreciate you. Hey, Brandon, bless you, man. Hanaya, bless you, man. Appreciate that. The word tells us to be subject to one another's. Yes, absolutely. Got you. You guys need to be at the forefront. Man, we just out here trying to be obedient and share the relationship experience as well as our relationship with one another and the Most High, and how we correlate these things to the text to really be something that we can apply, to get it out of, our heads of what we think it is. Many times, like we have this God in our head of what we think it is versus what it really is. But go ahead and go back to what you're saying, baby, because you dropped the bomb right there about disposition. That if you want your daughter or your son, and I hope y'all caught this, if you want your daughter or your son to not rebel, to suck their teeth, roll their eyes, whatever that is that they do to you, then you should not do said thing when it comes time that your husband has asked you to do something. Is that what I'm catching?
Right. Because the mother is the first teacher. And if she's doing her job properly, she's mindful, first of all of her behavior. And knowing that children are watching every single thing.
Everything.
Especially daughters. I'm trying to make sure that I'm raising my husband's daughter to be a very amiable wife, agreeable with her husband, who's easily, assimilated with him, and not someone that has her own objectives and her own different, values that are just so hardwired that she just can't seem to let go. I'm just being oppressed. That's when that oppression feeling comes. When you feel like, oh, this is such an oppressive relationship. I'm not able to express myself. I can't live my dreams.
Right. Well, where did that dream come from?
Your dreams don't align with your patriarch. So your dreams got to go out of the window. when
Right.
you're married. It has to be an alignment. Now, I'm not saying that your husband trods all over everything that you want in life,
You
because
shouldn't.
that's not what's going on.
No.
However, what I am saying is that as a wife, you have to understand your position, and it is submissive to your husband.
Oh, wait one minute. You just said submissive to your husband. I'm sorry. Keep going. I don't want to break your flow. Yeah, come on. Our positions be submissive because we don't hear this. Hear this. Coming from someone that can articulate it in the way that you're expressing it. Please,
and it's also coming from someone who wasn't always really of this mindset.
Yeah. Straight up. Nah.
Well, I was not.
I'm just messing with you. I know I'm just messing with you.
Do me like that.
Nah. You always
no, but it's like you if you want a marriage that actually is functional in the correct way, then these are things for you to consider.
Yes.
We're not trying to tell anybody what to do.
At all.
But if what you're doing is not working,
reconsider. Consider your ways. That's what we say. Consider your ways. I want to say this and then we're done. Mm-hmm. As an example of what you said about the way you're raising our daughter, she's been knitting. She's been doing a phenomenal job. She made this crocheting. She's been crocheting. She made this little stuffed animal and she named him Schmidt. It was so cute. She named him Schmidt. And I was like, and I played with it and I thought like, baby, this is beautiful. I'm just delighted that you were able to do something like this. And she just took it upon herself. She taught herself and she's just been doing it. And so I was holding it and I came back to it later. I said, I don't know about Schmidt. I said, this looks like an Oscar. And she was like, yeah, but his name is Schmidt. I said, okay. Later, this was just yesterday. This morning, I come downstairs and she greets me and I give her a kiss. I said, well, baby, what's his name? She's like, Oscar? I said, no, it was Schmidt. No, I changed it to Oscar. I was like, oh my goodness. That's just a small example of being feminine, of being cooperative and submitting. Like, you know what? I'm not really bound to that name.
She's not.
All. Like, no, that's what my father said. He looks like an Oscar, so I'll just change his name to Oscar. Not a big deal.
Yeah, she's a wonderful young lady.
Yeah, I'm thankful. And I know that's a result of you. You don't get those type of results just because my hands are on her, but your hands, that's all your work. So hallelujah.
But I do want to encourage anyone that may be, struggling with any of it, because like I said, this isn't a position that I was always in.
Right.
Nor was this belief one that we always had. And to change over and really align and correct things is a process, and it requires some introspection and some really deep self-evaluation, so that awareness is there.
Yes.
Because if you're not aware of where you are, you can't even strategize or figure out how to get to the next place. So, that's important. And as a wife, you have to always stay tapped in and in tune with your husband to make sure that you're giving him what he needs. Because as my husband always said, when I would be saying, I'm just trying to be helpful, he would say, the worst thing you can give somebody is the help they don't need. Mm-hmm. So, that's important to make sure that your help is effective.
Right. What are you doing?
Right.
And who are you doing it for?
Because only your husband can tell you if you're a good wife. Your friends can't. Mm-hmm. Your cousins can't. Nobody can, because you're not married to them. You're married to your husband. Yeah. So he can grade you, and only him.
Yeah, and you can receive grades in marriage and in a relationship.
They can tell you
to see how successful you are.
Sweet potato pie is good.
Yeah, great. They don't mind that, but it requires change if you're getting graded. If you're getting a C, in things. But if you give that woman a C, you need to be able to articulate why that's a C and what's the mark. Does she know what the mark is? Have you clearly articulated what the mark is? What are the qualities that you value, and what will be beneficial for her to offer you, versus just allowing her to make it up? Like, hey, babe, I desire A, B, C, D. This is what I would want from the relationship. This is how I would like for you to guide the home. And because I'm not one that's going to nitpick, micromanage, like, nah, babe, I trust you. I've given you what I would like to occur. I let you have it. I take my hands off. Babe, you got it. I trust you.
And really a wife that's in tune and accord with her husband, he doesn't really have to say a lot. You should kind of understand. That's that one mind that, what would Hodge do? You remember what WWJD bracelets?
WWJD.
Like, what would hubby do? You know, so it's kind of that kind of thing, often when I'm talking to, his sons, it's kind of, they're like, oh, wow. It's just like talking to you, Dad. And it's funny to me because I'm not trying to. I'm just
Dad, I had a conversation with Iman, and it was like you in a head wrap. Like you're going, because I've been intentional in depositing what I like. See, so men, husbands, are you putting forth the work to get the result that you say that you want? Like oftentimes, like we'll have 2 Bible classes throughout the week. We have Midrash, and I'm speaking to my family. I'm speaking to my family on the Shabbat every week, twice a week usually. I'm faithful at depositing in them because I want them to understand my ways as I've interpreted the ways of Yah.
right.
So they don't get that through osmosis. They don't get that just through just picking up the book and holding it and memorizing it, because they don't have the proper interpretive lens to view these things.
Right.
That comes from that patriarch. That comes from that husband who has to be intentional. And when they see that you are being faithful at showing that you're important to me, that's why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this to oppress you, to rule over you. I'm giving this to you because I care.
Right.
I love you. I desire for you to understand me. And oftentimes they can't meet that mark. They may be getting a C in their performance or a B in their performance versus an A, because that husband has not modeled the thing that they need. You haven't been a great instructor. So I always take it on the chin that I failed in my leadership if what I desire to occur is not occurring in my absence. So,
right. Yeah. Because it should continue whether you're here or not.
Whether I'm here or not.
Right.
So, all right, family. Bless y'all. Thank y'all for joining us. Brandon, appreciate you, man. What will hubby do? Renaya, what's going on? Lorez, Vaughn, what's going on? Eliyahu, Brandon, man, I appreciate you guys for joining us. We getting ready to tap out. Any questions real quick before we go?
One more thing.
Come on.
Just a message to wives, because that's the only people I can speak to. Only people that I need to speak to.
Right.
If your husband has required specific things of you, and you know what those things are, and you're only doing those things while he's there. When he's not there, you're sitting on your hands. You're not doing anything. When he walks in the door, you get busy. Now, is that what we really want to do? Is that what you really want to do? So are you his helpmeet, or are you just simply a liar?
That's hypocrisy.
That's deceitful.
That's deceitful.
That's witchcraft. To behave in a certain way when you're being watched, and then when a man has, gone on his day, going about his way, trying to, earn a living for his family out and about, and you're just back to your, regular old self, not being compliant, not even attempting to obey. you need to consider your ways and make some changes if that's what you're doing, because that is not beneficial for your husband, definitely not beneficial for your family. And if you have any children that are watching that, best believe that will blow up in your face. And that same level of disobedience that you've displayed towards your husband will be displayed towards you.
Yeah. Expect to reap a harvest when you've sowed all of these seeds.
Yes.
That's all we got, family. Blessings to you. Thank y'all, everyone,
Shalom,
for joining
everyone.
us. Shalom, Marie. Appreciate you. BJ Ferguson, last couple people that tapped in. Much love, family. We getting ready to get out of here. It's been good.
Shalom, everyone.
Stuck in my past, how to relapse. I keep running back to you. I try to